This is Brad A. Milford with the Unlimited Business Wisdom Podcast, where leaders, seasoned entrepreneurs, and business owners share their wisdom. It's straight to the point to respect people's time, and because we know knowledge and wisdom turn to business possibility, and possibility mixed with support and action become reality. In this podcast, we discuss leadership, sales, marketing, operations, team development, quality, and finance to drive sustainable results and everlasting impact to make the world a better place. Thanks for joining us. For over 30 years, Bob Burg has been successfully showing entrepreneurs, leaders, and sales professionals how to communicate their value and accelerate their referral business. Although for years, Bob was best known for his sales classic, Endless Referrals, it's his business parable, The Go-Giver, co-authored with John David Mann, that has created a worldwide movement. While part of the 4-book series, The Go-Giver itself has sold more than 1 million copies and been translated into 30 languages. It was rated number 10 on Inc. magazine's list of the most motivational books ever, and was HubSpot's 20 most highly rated sales books of all time. Bob is an advocate, supporter, and defender of the free enterprise system, believing that the amount of money one makes is directly proportional to how many people they serve. Bob Burg, so excited to have you on the show. Now,
hey, Brad,
Bob,
great to be with you.
It's great to have you. Now, I would be remiss if I just didn't share this with the audience and with you personally. I'm excited that I get to share this with you. And I want to just give you a hugely high endorsement. Years ago, going back five years ago or so, I was making a shift in my business, in my career, in my life. And I actually reached out to you personally, and you gave me some good advice. But the reason why I had reached out to you is because a leader, a person in a leadership position, recommended your book. And I read your book, and it shifted my entire life. It truly shifted my entire life. And I mean that from the core and center of my heart. That was some difficult times for me. And when I read your book, I was impacted so hugely and greatly. I want to personally thank you.
You just made my day. Please know how much that meant to me.
Thank you. And not only that, but I do often buy one of your books for my clients as well. So anyone that becomes a client, I love gifting them The Go-Giver and The Go-Giver Leader too. So we're going to dive in here in just a moment. For anybody on planet Earth who, shocking and surprisingly, would not know about your book. So Bob, thanks again for being on the show. I respect your time. I know how busy you are and how many requests you get. And I want to personally thank you for taking the time to be here.
My pleasure and honor.
To give back. I love it. So Bob, a few questions. Going way back, you were in broadcasting, weren't you?
Yeah, I was. I was in radio, sports, and then television news for a while. Not a little while. I really wasn't very good at it. So it wasn't long until I was not any longer in broadcasting and kind of what I like to say, graduated into sales.
Nice. So what were some of the things that you were experiencing through that shift? So you went from broadcasting then into directly into sales. Can you set the stage for us in the background before the book?
Yeah. So when I got into sales, the challenge was I knew nothing about sales on any kind of sophisticated level. I mean, I had never taken any sales training or even knew such a thing existed. And apparently the company where I was working hadn't either, because they didn't really supply any. So I was on my own, and I'm not really someone who's good at inventing the wheel, right? So I floundered for the first few months. And then one day I'm in a bookstore, and now this is 40 years ago. So, things are a little bit different. It's nowadays, sales books, sales training, that's everywhere. Back then, that wasn't really a big thing unless you were in the, But I came across two books in a bookstore I walked into, and one was by Tom Hopkins and one was by Zig Ziglar, two of the icons in the sales space then and even now. To me, these are the two. It inspired me right there, just because I had no idea there was a methodology for selling. I didn't know. So I started reading their books. Now, I like to say I didn't read their books. I devoured their books. And so every night I'd come home after work, I would read, I would take notes, I'd highlight, I'd underline, I'd fold the pages, the whole thing. I'd practice, I'd drill, I'd rewrite, And within a few weeks, my sales really began to soar. And the thing is, there was no real significant difference in me from 3 weeks earlier than 3 weeks later, other than I now had a methodology or a system for selling. Now, I personally define a system as the process of predictably achieving a goal based on a logical and specific set of how-to principles. To me, that's a system. The key is predictability, right? If it's been proven that by doing A, you'll get the desired results of B, then you know that all you need to do is A and continue to do A and continue to do A, and eventually you'll get the desired results of B. So to me, they had presented me with a system that I could utilize. And I just found it really helpful. But the really great thing about it was recognizing that it wasn't just learning about sales, as important as that is, but it's all the ancillary materials, the personal development and personal growth materials. And so I started stocking up. I mean, it was, How to Win Friends and Influence People, and The Magic of Thinking Big, and Think and Grow Rich, As a Man Thinketh, Og Mandino's books, Greatest Salesman in the World, James Classen's book, I just loved it. I found something that I just absolutely loved. I was starting to grow on the inside. And, as you know, Brad, as success starts on the inside, it manifests itself outwardly, but it begins in here. And so to me, it was I just enjoyed sales. I enjoyed personal development. The whole thing was just, a lot of fun.
I love that. And I absolutely 100% totally relate as well. I think when one shifts, for those of us who do shift into the inside, we realize that a lot of that starts to manifest. But what I really love about what you said is you didn't just read the book. You actually devoured it. You practiced, you rehearsed,
yeah.
You were highlighting. That is so important, because in the world we live in today, there's a lot of information out there. And I think a lot of people look for these nuggets, right? And these 30-second snippets and things like that. But what you're describing, devouring, is a whole nother level.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that. I wanted to highlight what you said there. So
Thank you.
What's one piece of advice that you received before the book that really made a difference? What was the difference maker for you?
It's a great question. And I think I would go back to 2 years after I began in sales. Okay. And I had done pretty well for those couple of years. And I went to another company where I was selling a high ticket item, and I started out in a slump, and I was having trouble getting out of that slump. And I made a mistake that a lot of young salespeople make, and that is, the more of a slump I was in, the more I focused on myself and making the sale, as opposed to focusing on what I had been taught to focus on, which is the other person, right? The customer. And I remember coming back one day after a non-selling appointment. Not by design, it was supposed to be a selling appointment, but because of my own ineptitude, the sale did not take place. Thus, that other person was not helped. I did not earn a commission, and my company didn't prosper. So it was a lose-lose-lose instead of a win-win-win. And there was a gentleman there who worked at the company. He was an older guy. I didn't know him very well. He's a nice guy, a hi, how are you type of guy, but he wasn't in the sales department. I think he was an engineer, and he retired soon after. But I guess he saw me as sort of like Joe in The Go-Giver that I would write about years later with John David Mann. He saw me as that young, ambitious, aggressive, up and coming, but very frustrated salesperson who had the potential, but who was not realizing it, and whose focus was in the wrong place. And he said to me, Burg, He was a last name kind of guy. He said, Berg, can I give you some advice? And you know, he was one of these people who, you know, whenever he didn't say much, but whenever he did, it was typically very profound. And so I was very grateful for his offer. And I said, yes, please do. I need it. And he said, and I'll never forget these words. He said, if you want to make a lot of money in sales, don't have making money as your target. Your target is serving others. Now, when you hit the target, he said, you'll get a reward, and that reward will come in the form of money. And you can do with that money whatever you choose. But never forget, the money is simply the reward for hitting the target. It ain't the target itself. Your target is serving others. And, you know, Brad, I think that was my epiphany. That's when I really, truly recognized that great salesmanship is never about the salesperson. Great salesmanship is never about the product or service, as important as those are. It's not what the sale is about. Great salesmanship is about the other person. It's about that human being whose life you're trying to add value or bring value to. I guess when you think about it, it's about another person's life being better because you are part of it. And I think that when we approach sales from that foundational premise, I think we're really 9 steps ahead of the game in a 10-step game.
Powerful stuff. I love that. So not only did you answer my question, but you also beat me to my next question, which was, what's the premise of the book? But that sounds a lot like the whole premise in and of itself. So that day you learned that lesson, and that, like you said, it was an epiphany for you.
Yeah. You know, I mean, I would say if there was a premise of the Go-Giver, it's that shifting your focus, right? Shifting your focus from getting to giving. And when I say giving in this context, I simply mean constantly and consistently providing immense value to others, understanding that doing so is not only a more pleasant way, a more fulfilling way of conducting business, it's actually the most financially profitable way as well. And not for any kind of woo-woo, way out there, magical, mystical reasons. It actually makes very rational sense, very logical sense, because when you're that person who can take your focus off yourself and place it on serving others, on discovering what they want, what they need, what they desire, right? When you can take your focus off of yourself and place it on helping other people solve their challenges or problems, being focused on helping other people get closer to happiness, if you will, people feel good about you. People want to get to know you. They like you. They trust you. They want to be in a relationship with you. They want to buy from you. They want to tell others about you. They want to be your personal walking ambassador. So, you know, I think taking our focus off of ourselves and placing it on the interest of others is the most, you know, it is to me, the only way to have a sustainably successful and profitable business.
Love that. Not only just a profitable business, but a sustainably profitable business. Very important. In our world today, lots of people, we know what the stats are, but lots of people can start a business and lots of people can start a profitable business, but a sustainably profitable business is a whole different ball game. So I love that love that you shared that. Let's dive in a little bit. This is a short podcast. Can you give for anybody, and I would be shocked, I want to encourage you to go get the book before this podcast even ends, whether you're watching or listening, because I highly recommend it. It is a game changer. But for anybody that hasn't read the book yet, could you give us a quick review of the 5 laws that you share in the book?
Sure. The laws themselves are the laws of value, compensation, influence, authenticity, and receptivity. The law of value, which says your true worth is determined by how much more you give in value than you take in payment. Doesn't mean you don't make a profit. Go-givers make a great profit because we sell on value rather than price. What it does mean is that the customer experience, the entire customer experience, is so fantastic that the other person always feels as though they receive much more than what they paid for while you make a profit. So in other words, it's important to understand the difference between price and value. Price is a dollar figure. It's a dollar amount. It's finite. It is what it is. Value is the relative worth or desirability of a thing, of something, to the end user or beholder. In other words, what is it about this thing, this product, service, concept, idea, what have you, that brings so much worth to another person that they will willingly exchange their money for it and feel great that they did, while you also make a very healthy profit. So that's really law number one. Law number two, the law of compensation. Your income is determined by how many people you serve and how well you serve them well. This says that it's not just a matter of value, which is very, very important. That's the foundational principle. It's a matter of impact. How many lives are you impacting with that immense value that you're providing? Law number three, the law of influence, says your influence is determined by how abundantly you place other people's interests first. Now, not in a way that's doormatty or martyrish or self-sacrificial, not at all. It's simply understanding, as Joe, the protege in the story, learned from several of the mentors, the golden rule of business, of sales, is that all things being equal, people will do business with and refer business to those people they know, like, and trust. And, there's no faster, more powerful, or more effective way to elicit those feelings toward you and others than by genuinely moving from an I focus or me focus to an other focus, looking to, as Sam, one of the mentors in the story, advised Joe, make your win all about the other person's win. Law number four, the law of authenticity, says the most valuable gift you have to offer is yourself. In the story, Deborah, one of the mentors, shared that all the skills in the world, the sales skills, technical skills, people skills, as important as they are, and they are very important, they're also all for naught if you don't come at it from your true, authentic core. But when you do, when you show up as yourself day after day, week after week, month after month, people feel good about you. They feel comfortable with you. They feel safe with you. Why wouldn't they? They know who they're getting. And this inspires trust. And this inspires, this advances the relationship. And so authenticity is so very key. And then the law number five, the law of receptivity, says the key to effective giving is to stay open to receiving, which really means nothing more than understanding that, yeah, we breathe out, we also have to breathe in. It's not one or the other, it's both. We breathe out carbon dioxide, we breathe in oxygen. We breathe out, which is giving, we breathe in, which is receiving. Brad, despite the horrible messages of lack that we get from the world around us, I believe the anti-prosperity messages out there, anti-business, anti-money, anti-whatever, despite those messages, the fact is that giving and receiving are not opposite concepts. They're simply two sides of the very same coin, and they work in tandem. It's not, are you a giver or a receiver? That's the treacherous dichotomy, the false dilemma, the unnecessary use of the word or. No, you're a giver and a receiver. But what you know is that the giving comes first. This is universal law. These are laws of nature. You plant before you harvest. You reap before you sow. You give before you receive. But when you do, when you give, and you give to plenty, and you place other people's interests, or you come from an authentic base, you've created what we call the benevolent context for your success. And you're ready to receive, but you've got to make yourself open to receiving. You've got to allow yourself to receive. See, John David Mann, my awesome co-author, he and I say that money is simply an echo of value, right? It's the thunder, if you will, to value's lightning, which means the value must come first. That must be your focus, providing value to another person. The money you receive is a very natural result of the value you've provided. At the same time, you've got to be open to receiving. And it's important to kind of to look past those negative messages, to question premises when you hear things that are anti-prosperity, and say, well, why? Why is that so? What principle is that based on? What's that person's agenda? How did they learn that? Who taught them? How did they learn? You know what I'm saying? And I really believe that prosperity is worthy of an ongoing study. And there are some great prosperity teachers and writers and practitioners out there, the Randy Gages, the Sharon Lecters, the Ellen Rogans, the late Bob Proctor, people like David Nagel, Ken Honda. These people, it's worth getting their books, listening to their podcasts, and real, because we get those horrible lack messages all the time. Just go on social media and you'll see those. Never mind what kids learn in school and different things that just don't present a good prosperity message. So we need to really, we really need to reach out and go after the prosperity teachings and get that into our heads and get that into our hearts.
I love that. You have me on the edge of my chair, Bob.
Oh, thank you.
I think you may have answered. So the next question I was going to ask you speaks directly into that. And so maybe that is the answer, but I still would like to ask you. So how does one shift from getting to giving? Now, what I mean by that is with all the information out there, you already spoke into this a little bit, and especially in the internet world and on social media, there's a lot of stuff about lack out there. So all the things that we've been taught improperly, how do we unlearn what we've learned and relearn how to be a giver rather than a getter?
Well, so there's a couple things, I think, and a couple parts of that question. As far as, when we talk about the lack mentality, it's kind of, it's again, goes back to questioning the premises and then looking for the people who are giving good prosperity based messages. And that doesn't mean you just have to accept everything, but it means you certainly look into that. And again, you ask those questions, and does it make sense, and so forth. Now, as far as how do we shift from getting to giving? So this is first understanding, and so let's go back to the person who says, well, this go giver stuff, that's fine for after I have the money, right? And I don't have to worry about it, but I need the money now. I can't be, when I'm in a sales presentation, my goal is that person's money. Okay, so let's take that and let's take a couple of examples. And we're going to say I'm that person. I'm that salesperson. I need the money, and I'm going in with the total focus on getting that person's money by making the sale. Okay, so and you're my prospect, and so we're having a discussion. I'm asking questions because I've been taught to ask certain questions, but the reason I'm asking them is not so much because I really care about you as much as I want to find a way to know, how I can sharp angle you into a close so that I can, get that commission. When you have an objection, I'm a little defensive because your objection standing in the way of my commission. Okay. And so, yeah, I answer it. I give you the standard answers to the standard objections without really going deep and finding out the true reason. I just because I want to get this out of the way. I'm closing early and often, right? And by the time I ask for the sale, my question would be, are you more likely or less likely to have the trust and faith in me that I have your best interest at heart? And the chances are probably not. Okay. Now let's take the same situation. I'm the same person and I still need the money. Right. But what I'm going to do this time is I'm not going to deny my self-interest because I'm a human being. So I'm a self-interested being. This was programmed into us. This helped us survive and pass our genes along to the next generation. This goes back to the cave person days. So no, as human beings, we are self-interested creatures. Now, what I'm going to do is not deny my self-interest, but what I am going to do is I'm going to suspend my self-interest. I'm going to put my self-interest to the side so that I can absolutely focus on bringing you an immensely value-based experience. So we're in the interview. I'm asking you questions, and my sole desire is to kind of know where you are and what you need, what you want, what you desire, what challenges I can help you overcome, how I can make your life better through my product or service. And as I listen to you and as I listen intently, I'm really, I'm also knowing that because we're different people, we come from different sets of beliefs and how we see the world. So I'm not assuming that I understand exactly what you mean by what you say. And I'm not assuming that you understand what I mean by what I say. So I'm asking clarifying questions diplomatically and tactfully. And I'm making sure I have the full story. Only when I am certain that I totally understand what you need, want, and desire do I go ahead and match the benefits of my product or service with those needs, wants, and desires. When you have an objection, I welcome that objection. And I assure you that it's fine to have the objection, because in order for us to be able to work together, or in order for you to be able to own this product, you need to feel very comfortable with it. So what I do is, rather than just kind of give a superficial answer, we kind of work together in order to understand the true root of the objection, which you might not understand yourself at this point yet. So we're going to do that together. And then once we know that, now we're going to work through this to advance the sale. And, you know, Brad, by the time I ask you to take action and purchase, I'm simply asking you to do something that you've already told me that you want to do. And now my question would be, are you more likely or less likely to want to buy from me right now? And the chances are probably more likely. And so I think when a person can understand why it's actually in their best interest to focus on the giving, right, as opposed to just trying to take, they're much more likely to do so. You know, one of the things I often say when I speak at a sales conference, I'll start out by saying that nobody's going to buy from you because you have a quota to meet, right? They're not going to buy from you because you need the money or really want this sale to take place. And they're not even going to buy from you because you're a really nice human being. They're going to buy from you only because they believe they'll be better off by doing so than by not doing so. And that's wonderful news for that entrepreneur or salesperson who really, truly, genuinely, and authentically wants to serve the other person.
Love that. It's really simple, but it's really deep. And I love how you shared that so eloquently, because that is a literal problem in the market. It is, as even though we are where we are today, that is still an underserved market that understands what you just delivered. So if you're watching and you're listening, I want to encourage you, really just scroll back and listen to that a second time, drill down into the words that Bob just shared. That was really powerful, Bob. Thank you very much.
Thank you. My pleasure.
I'm really interested to ask about influence. I think influence is really misunderstood in the market that we live in today. Influencers on social media and, you know, just influence. The word itself is thrown around like value. It's thrown around a lot. Could you speak into a little bit about what you've learned about influence from the time you've written a book until now? Any big lessons there, Bob?
Well, I mean, I think it's understanding what influence really is on a very basic level. Influence is simply the ability to move a person or persons to a desired action, usually within the context of a specific goal. That's the definition, but that's not really its essence. The essence of influence is pull as opposed to push, right? We've all heard the saying, how far can you push a rope? And the answer is not very well, at least not very fast or very effectively, right? Which is why great influencers don't push. They don't push their ideas on others. They don't push their will on others. They don't push themselves on others. They're not push-y, right? You never hear people saying, wow, that Joe or that Diane, she is so influential. She has a lot of push with people. No, she's influential. She has a lot of pull with people. That's what influence is. It's pull. It's an attraction. Great influencers, genuine influencers, they pull you. You buy into them before you even buy into their idea. And this pull is really manifested again through your focus, and that is, asking yourself questions such as, this person. How does this person who I'm asking to do a certain thing, how does what I'm asking them to do align with their goals? right? Align with their needs, wants, and desires. How does what I want this other person to do? How does it align with their challenge? How does it help solve their challenges? How does it bring them closer to where they want to be? And I think, Brad, that when we ask ourselves these questions thoughtfully and intelligently, uh, genuinely, authentically, not as a way to manipulate another human being into doing our will, but as a way of building everyone in the process. Now we've come a lot closer to earning that person's commitment, as opposed to trying to depend on some type of compliance or, manipulation or, whatever it may be.
Absolutely love that. Bob, I would love to ask you so many more questions about the receptivity, about the value, about everything. But the cool thing is, many of those answers are in the book. So, and I know we have a very set time. So again, I want to appreciate you for being on. There's so many more things I'd love to ask you. But what I do want, before we close, I want to ask you, because you have a new book out. Actually, I know. Oh, look at that! I got it right here, which I absolutely love. So you, throughout this process, within the same principles that you teach, you've moved more into leadership. So
well,
can you
that's
just
a second book in the series. So we've actually had that out for quite a while. We have actually 4 books out in the Go Giver series. And so yeah, there's the Go Giver, then there's Go Givers Sell More, the only one that's not a parable. Then there's the Go Giver Leader, and then our last one is the Go Giver Influencer. So yeah, it's been a fun ride. John David Mann's a wonderful, fantastic writer and storyteller, and he's really, the person who makes these stories sing.
I love it. I love it. And I love how you highlight that as well. So Bob, thank you so much. I've made that shift into leadership as well, and it's impacted my life. But one of the reasons why I made that shift is because of the books that you're producing. So again, I want to thank you so much.
That's such a wonderful compliment. Thank you so much, Brad. Thank you so much for having me on your show. It's been a real joy.
I appreciate it. So before we close, when somebody reads this book, because I know there's going to be someone watching, and then they're going to run out and get your book, and they want to reach out to you, they want to be more involved with the things that you're doing, the things that how you're impacting the world, maybe want to obtain one of your services or something. What's the best way for somebody to get involved with what you're doing in the world today, Bob?
Yeah, my business partner, 𝐂𝐸𝐿 and I have put together a social. It's a social media network, online network. Well, I guess social media online that would make, but a social media network called the Go Giver Community. So for those who are interested, if they'd like to visit they just go to the Go Giver without the hyphen, the Go Giver Community.com, and they can check that out. It's really growing. It's an online network of go givers.
Love it. Thank you so much. Again, appreciate you, Bob. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
This is Brad A. Milford with the Unlimited Business Wisdom Podcast, where leaders, seasoned entrepreneurs, and business owners share their wisdom. If you're looking for more on leadership, sales, marketing, or operations to drive team development, higher quality, and high-level sustainable profits, we encourage you to join the Built for Brilliance community on Facebook, or reach out to us about one of our mastermind groups, coaching or consulting, or even fractional COO services. You can reach us at buildbrilliance.net/contact. We thank you for listening, for sharing the show, and appreciate your rating and reviews, as this makes more shows possible. Thanks for joining us.